Hi, hi. Welcome to this live stream. My name is Dr. David Purvis. Now, I don't normally stream live on YouTube, but I thought I'd do this just for a bit of a change. The reason I'm doing this is because this is week 3 of the experiment. And the experiment is an opportunity for people to work through a structured cognitive behavior therapy program and also have massive community and social support on the Mental Health Wizard Facebook group. So today we're starting week 3 of the experiment, and I want to talk about how CBT works, because there's a massive misconception, I think, in the community about how CBT works. But also, if we understand how CBT works, we can also understand what you can do about virtually any mental health problem, actually. So it's really a kind of powerful tool. Now, I've decided to go old school. I've got technology, I can draw on the screen, but this is old school. So this is a very, very basic CBT model. Now, thoughts, feelings, behaviors, sensations, which is what your body's doing, and of course, context. Let me just put this down for a minute. When you struggle with anxiety, depression, panic, any mental health problem, you're principally plagued by your emotions, by your feelings. And that's why these are called emotional disorders. So with anxiety, you're troubled by the emotion of fear. With depression, probably something about loss and grief, etc. But it's the emotion that you have trouble with. And people often say that CBT doesn't deal with emotions. That's not at all accurate. And I'm going to show you why in a sense. But you're troubled by the feeling. Now, every time you have the feeling of anxiety and depression, it kind of motivates you to do certain things. And those things are what we might call behaviors. So you're troubled with the feelings, the emotions of, let's deal with anxiety, depression, because they almost always go together. You're troubled with the feelings, but they make you do stuff. Your body is not, your physical sensations are not at ease because the emotion of fear gives you the physiology of fear. Okay, so far, this is kind of what you suffer from, in a sense. This is what you endure. And I have to say, for vast swathes of the population, that's what you do. You endure it. Nothing happens. That's it. You might get some medication, or you might get some therapy, or you might get some nothing actually. So hundreds of millions of people simply endure this process. And I'm going to show you what to do about it. I'm going to show you why it happens and what to do about it. Okay, so cognitive behavior therapy. Cognitive is thought, behavior is what you do. Yeah, but I suffer from the emotions. Okay. Let's imagine this. I say to people when they come to see me, I have this question which I developed years ago, and it's a good question. Okay. I say, oh, well, okay, so what's the most negative thing you believe about yourself? Oh, I'm too generous. No, that's not what it is. What's the most negative thing you believe about yourself? I care too much about what people think about me. Brilliant. Okay. Why might you care too much about what people think about you? Well, they might sort of, see through me a bit, or whatever. We push it a bit, okay? And it brings us to a very simple kind of conclusion. Well, I feel like a failure. I think I am a failure. I feel like a failure. I think I'm a failure. Okay. So if the most negative thing you believe about yourself is that you are a failure, I am a failure, how's that going to make you feel? Well, it's going to make you feel as if you're going to be potentially exposed, found out, recognized for who you really are. Something bad's going to happen. Okay. So this often gives you the feeling of fear. So I think I am a failure. That makes you feel fearful. Okay, well, if you think you're a failure and you feel fearful, what you're going to do? You're going to do stuff. You're going to want to avoid going to places where people might see that you're a failure. You might want to avoid doing challenges which are a little bit stretching for you. You might want to avoid talking about subjects that you're not an expert in. You might want to avoid people and places that are a bit different. You might well be a perfectionist. You're almost sure to be a perfectionist, and you're also going to have very high standards. You're likely to be a control freak, and you're trying very hard to make sure everything goes as it's supposed to go. Then you will not be exposed as a failure. That's a lot of work. And that amount of work is typically what brings people to therapy. Okay. I think I am a failure. I feel the emotion of fear from being exposed. I'm going to do all this stuff. Is that going to make you calm and relaxed, or is it going to make you stressed? It's going to make you stressed. Now, stress is the feeling of precipitation, the feeling of like, I've got too much to do and I don't have enough capacity to do it. Is that going to make you feel that is that going to make you think that your idea of being a failure is more or less strong? Well, more strong. Yeah, okay. Is that going to make the feeling of fear more or less like powerful, more powerful? Is that going to make you do stuff to avoid being found out? Yes. Is that going to make you more stressed? Yes. So we end up with a great big loop. What you think about yourself determines how you feel, determines what you do, and determines what your body sensation is likely to be. If you're calm, then you're unlikely to be very active in this notion of you're going to be found out because you're a failure. If you're very stressed, you feel it's much more likely that you're going to be found out. So this CBT model, this CBT kind of understanding, gives us an opportunity to see why problems happen. So we can say that I think I'm a failure. Okay. Are you a failure? Now, I've asked this question for the last 30 years, right? And I have never had anyone say, yes, I am a failure. They say, I think I'm a failure. Well, are you a failure? No, I'm not a failure. Okay, so what you believe about yourself is wrong. I think I'm a failure. Yeah, but I'm not a failure. Why are you not a failure? Well, work, successful, family, blah, blah, blah. I just think I am deep down. We call that a core belief. So if you think you're a failure deep down and you're doing all this avoidance stuff, you're never actually challenging that belief about yourself. You're allowing it to exist. And in fact, you're allowing this whole thing to carry on. But if you're not a failure, then the whole thing's pointless. And that is the fundamental of all mental health problems. All mental health problems are mistakes made by your brain for some reason or other, but they're wrong, okay? If you believe something that's wrong, you're going to get the emotion, you're going to get the behavior, you're going to get the physical sensations that are all appropriate to that belief, but it doesn't make it correct. The belief is wrong. We could change that belief. People will think that I'm stupid. Okay, are you stupid? No. Yeah, but people will think I'm stupid. How do you feel? I feel exposed. I feel, again, fearful, anxious. What are you going to do? Well, I'm not going to go to places where there are people. Okay. You're going to feel calm or relaxed? No, I'm going to be massively stressed if there's any people about. People will, if I speak, people will see that I am, I don't know what I'm talking about. Again, this is a mistake, and the mistake perpetuates itself. So this is how mental health problems are maintained. You do not recognize your brain is making a mistake, and therefore you don't challenge it. Now, this next bit is always, I've said this many thousands of times, and always people seem to, I don't know, not get it. So here it is. Every time you make a mistake, or every time your brain makes a mistake, and you don't challenge it, you're reinforcing the mistake, you're practicing the mistake. So look, suppose I pick up some peas with my pen, but let's pretend this is a fork, right? I pick up some peas with my fork and I go like this. Oh, I go, what? That's ridiculous. What? I challenge that mistake because I've just poked peas into my cheek. We challenge every mistake we make, except we do not challenge mental health problem mistakes. I feel such a failure. Are you a failure? No, but I feel, yeah, okay. So what happens is that if you endure anxiety, depression, panic, etc., then you're reinforcing it because you're not challenging it. Your brain is making a mistake, and you're allowing that mistake to continue. And even worse, you kind of think that your experience, your mistake is valid. Yeah, I feel like a failure. Are you a failure? No. Yeah, but I feel like a failure. Well, you would, wouldn't you? Because how long have you felt this? Oh, 30 years? Right. So now we have the power of practice. If you believe something wrong about yourself for 30 years, any number of years, right? You are practicing reinforcing that negative belief. How can it be otherwise? How can it be otherwise? And this is why we have this like epidemic of mental health problems, because no one tells you that you need to challenge the negative beliefs you have about yourself because they're not valid. Now, you could say, yeah, but I just feel it, but I don't know why. I don't know why I feel it. I feel really, really anxious, but I don't know why. Well, fair enough. But then how long have you been practicing feeling anxious? 30 years. Okay. Well, it's a habit now, right? It's just a habit. You feel anxious because it's a habit, but it doesn't alter the fact that that feeling still goes with a thought. Now, the thought might now be, well, I'm weak. I can't, I can't do anything. I can't be challenged. I can't go out of the house. I'm weak. Okay. Well, if you believe that you are weak, how will you feel? Again, it's going to be the emotion of fear. It's going to be the emotion of well, let's just say fear, actually. Right. I am weak. I feel fearful. What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to stay in. I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go to the shops. I'm not going to go where there are people. I'm definitely not going to challenge myself. I'm not going to do anything that requires me to be pushed or exposed or whatever. Okay. So I'm going to make you. So if you find yourself in the world, are you going to be stressed? Are you going to be like calm and relaxed? Stressed. Does that right? If you feel stressed, does that make you believe that you are weak more or less? More, because ordinary people don't feel stressed when they're out just walking in the streets. That's because I'm weak, right? And so, again, it doesn't matter really what your thought is. If it's wrong, it cascades and it gives you the wrong emotion and it gives you the wrong behaviors and then it gives you the wrong sensations. And the whole thing goes around in a big loop. So this, in a sense, is how problems get made. I know it's a simple model, but a lot of times complex situations don't always require complex solutions. This is a simple model. If you have thoughts about yourself which are wrong, everything else is likely to follow. And if you're not aware of it, well, then you're just functionally a hostage to it. What to do about it? If you've been believing that you're a failure, I'm a failure for 30 years, but it's wrong. You're not a failure. You're not weak. You're not stupid. You're not a horrible person. There's not something wrong with you. These are all very classic thoughts, negative thoughts that create mental health problems. If they're wrong, you have to challenge them. So, how do we do that? This is a loop. Now, let's go in here just for a change. Let's say I think that I'm a failure and I feel a failure. Therefore, I'm going to avoid doing stuff where I might get exposed as a failure. Everything that you do, every bit of avoidance you do, based upon this incorrect thought and incorrect feeling, makes the problem worse. It reinforces the problem. And once you get to a certain level of reinforcement, it just maintains. So we can do stuff that's different. Cognitive behavior therapy, cognitive behavior. We can stop avoiding stuff. In essence, you could be brave. Yeah, but hang on. If I still think I'm a failure, then I'm just basically exposing myself, and I might get away with it or I might not. And people say, well, I got away with it. Next time I won't be so lucky. So what we have to do is we really have to change the thought. We have to change the belief you have about yourself. Any self-limiting beliefs you have about yourself have to be challenged. Is this true? Is this true? Am I this? Do I need to do this? Am I in fact weak? Am I in fact a failure? Am I in fact horrible, stupid, useless? Am I any of these things? Well, of course you're not. But unless you challenge it, you will continue to believe it. And this is the frustrating thing in a way, and I think this is in a sense, the failure of all mental health services. They do not tell you that anxiety and depression and panic, etc., are mistakes. And if you allow the mistake to continue, the mistake will continue. Your brain does not self-correct these kinds of mistakes. I think it's just, just there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of research papers that say the brain does not self-correct these kinds of mistakes. It's up to your little bit of consciousness, that little bit of you that you can call you. You go, hang on a minute, this is a mistake because I actually am. So when I'm doing CBT with folks, or if you're in the Mental Health Wizard Facebook group or on my Anxiety Wizard program, we cut it here. Is it true? No. Therefore, we cut it. We create something that we know to be true, and we practice the death out of it. We practice it like it's going out of fashion. Because if you've been practicing believing stuff about yourself that's not true for years, that's got force and that's got power. We cut it here. We cut it here. We cut it here. We cut it here. We cut this so that, in fact, you go, no, I do not need to feel this in this context. Therefore, I'm going to challenge it because it's wrong. It's a mistake. And we have a basis for changing your experience. The world, I mean, obviously there are people that care about you, but the world does not care what you think about yourself. So if you decide to think that you're a failure, then everything will follow. If you decide to think that you're, perfectly normal and adequately successful, then the world will not object and you'll carry on. So your mental health is within your grasp. You can not grasp it and allow yourself to suffer, or you can grasp it and change, how you think, how you feel, what you do, and the kind of life that you have. So this is week 3 of the experiment, which is taking place in the Mental Health Wizard Facebook group. If you're interested, check that out. And the experiment is a group of motivated people to have better mental health, are working through my Anxiety Wizard program with massive community support and additional help. And this video is one of the additional things that go with the experiment. So I hope you find it interesting. Thanks for taking the time to watch and listen.